How attractive is it when you meet someone who is positive and energetic and someone's walking fast, they're going somewhere, they're doing something.
You want to be around that.
Yeah, it's an attractive quality, isn't it? Where someone's got a vibrancy. Failure is part payment towards success. And I understand that the price of success is always paid in full and in advance. You're not number one in the world.
Wow.
You're not number one in the world and then you start making your mistakes. You're not number one in the world and then you start learning. It doesn't work like that. You know, you almost need to learn to lose to learn to win.
You've worked with golfers and things like that, and you're not necessarily interested in golf.
No interest whatsoever, no.
How does that work when you're trying to help someone go from number 5 to number 1 in the world?
Because I don't talk about golf. So rather than telling people that calm down, it's no big deal, because it is to them.
That's quite triggering.
Yeah,
justify it.
Yeah, it is. But to say to someone, you know, why is this a big deal? You know, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And tell me, what are you experiencing at the moment?
More interest.
Part of the problem with people not achieving what they're setting out to achieve is they don't necessarily want it in the first place.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Rich in Success podcast, the show that brings you motivation, education, and inspiration on how you can live a happier, a healthier, a more successful, and a more fulfilling life. Today's guest is Jamil Qureshi. Jamil is one of the foremost practitioners in high performance psychology and is an expert in high performance. In Jamil's career, he has worked with some of the world's leading business CEOs and owners, as well as world leading athletes and sports personalities. His clients include footballers from the Premier League, including teams such as Manchester City, Manchester United, and Liverpool FC. And he has also worked with 22 golfers from the world's top 50, including 2 number 1 in the world. Jamil's had an extraordinary career working with some of the world's very best minds and looking at how he can help give them the edge to become genuine high performance people. In today's episode, we delve into some fascinating topics all around how you can lead a life of more success, more achievement, and high performance. I really think this is a truly valuable listen, and I hope you will take a lot away from today. So without further ado, please enjoy episode 153, How to Live a Life of High Performance, with psychologist and performance coach Jamil Qureshi. And just before we dive straight into today's Rich in Success podcast episode, I wanted to share with you what becoming a Rich in Success member could actually do for your life. Now, if you're somebody that is at a point where you're serious about positive change, whether that be in your health, your well-being, your mindset, your business, your career, your finances, or your relationships, the Rich in Success membership is perfect for you. For just £39 a month, you get access to over 40 training videos where I'll be taking you through everything from goal setting. We'll be looking at high performance habits. We'll be looking at different changes you can make to your mindset and your attitude that are going to be able to propel you to have more success in every single area of your life. And in addition to these training videos, every month, you will get a live group coaching call with me where you can ask me any questions about the content or about things that you're going through in your life so that I can help you personally as your coach. And as well as that, there will be exclusive bonus interviews with experts in a variety of fields. I'm bringing together the best minds, the best experts from all around the world to give you access to the very best content to help you move forward in your life. All this for just £39 a month, reoccurring subscription that you can cancel at any time. To become a Rich in Success member today, please click the link below or head on over to richinsuccess.com where you can sign up there. And I will look forward to seeing you in the exclusive members area very soon. Okay, Jamil, first thing I want to say is thank you for bringing us to your beautiful home. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm really excited about this episode because you've had an incredible career. I was just saying before we started recording, there's so many things I could ask you about. There's so many questions around, what makes people successful, high performance. Before we dive into all that, I want to know a bit more about you.
Okay.
Psychologist, performance coach. Was that always the dream? Was that the path? How did you get into this?
No. Well, look, thank you for coming here today anyway.
Thank you.
I very much appreciate it. You come all the way down from the north.
We had an early start, a 5 a.m. start.
And I've provided sun for you as well.
And coffee.
And coffee.
So we're well happy.
What else do you need?
Nothing.
Yeah, there you are. So, psychologist, performance coach, but fell into it. So my original thing was business and marketing, actually.
Okay.
So I studied business and marketing. I had no interest in psychology. I used to play a bit of sport, played a bit of cricket.
Yeah.
And then someone said, you should see a psychologist. It will make you better at cricket. And so I saw a psychologist, which got me into psychology. And then I started reading some real practical psychology books. And these are things like, sort of stuff that Darren Brown almost does, really.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in the idea of how you can allow people to think differently or feel differently or act differently. So I got into quite practical psychology, and then I just had a lot of luck. I seemed to meet some really good sports people who said, you know a bit about psychology, why don't you come and help me? And that's when I started to take psychology more seriously and then started to follow it more as a profession.
Was it luck? I mean, did you put yourself out there? Was you conscious of meeting people and having the right conversations, or was it just literally luck?
Yeah, do you know, it's funny because I always say it's luck, but if you were going to put something behind it, I literally said yes to everything. Have you seen The Yes Man?
No.
With Jim Carrey? It's a movie where he just says yes to everything.
To everything?
And so, yeah, just literally.
Was that you?
So yeah, I did. I just literally said yes to everything, and I saw where it would take me. And I think that it's one thing I've come to realise, that the more connected we are, the more opportunity seems to come our way. So I just got connected. I started to meet different people, and I started to go different places, and I said yes to things, even the things that I couldn't do when it came to psychology. And I quickly read a book, find out how to do it. Okay. And it just seemed to work from there.
And how old were you at this kind of?
I was probably 35, something like that, so mid-30s.
See, I think that's interesting because I know that there's a lot of people talk about, get better at saying no to things and stop trying to spread yourself too thin. And I do agree with that. But I think there's certain times in your life where it does serve you well to just say yes to everything, figure it out, and you will learn a lot quicker by just experiencing stuff. And like you said, even if you don't have the answer, well, I've got to find it now somehow. I've got to read about it. And that's going to then propel you forward a lot quicker. I think that's really interesting. When you, obviously your career now, you've worked with, top athletes. You've worked with, I believe, footballers like Man City, Man United, Liverpool.
Yes, worked across a lot of them,
Yep, you've had world champions, golfers. When you look at people that are successful, however we deeming that as achievements and external success, what would you say are like the key foundations that they all have? What's the commonalities between those who do achieve and those who don't?
Oh, okay. That's a big one. So I often think the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people are prepared to do what unsuccessful people aren't. And that's usually choose a particular attitude at a given time when it would have been easy not to. Yeah. So two things that I find with sports people and business people who are successful is that they are incredibly purposeful. So there's a reason to why they do things. So the thing with purpose is that purpose is never achieved, it's attained on a daily basis. So they actually feel really fulfilled doing what they're doing on a daily basis, whether it's playing golf, whether it's starting up a business, whether it's doing podcasts. Yeah. And they find a real fulfillment in doing it regularly. So
it's that thing they say about it's the process rather than the the
Yes,
win,
yeah,
the goal.
absolutely, yeah. So to enjoy learning, to enjoy finding out, to enjoy testing their ability, to become really purposeful about being better. And then the other thing that I notice is the way in which they deal with failure. So success and failure are merely outcomes, they're not attitudes. And they both give us a equal opportunity to learn from them. And I think that sports people in particular, probably more than business people, realise that failure is part payment towards success. And I understand that the price of success is always paid in full and in advance. You're not number one in the world.
Wow.
You're not number one in the world and then you start making your mistakes. You're not number one in the world and then you start learning. It doesn't work like that. You almost need to learn to lose to learn to win. And I think they do it very well, some of these
So
people.
it's that
perform well.
self-awareness of the bigger picture and recognizing almost like the failures are just stepping stones towards
Absolutely.
the success.
Yeah.
And if you can learn to embrace and enjoy
Yeah.
both, then you're going to, like you said, then you're going to find more purpose, you're going to focus more on the process. And then what I always find is the outcomes just tend to be easier. Like they just sort of happen. I think a lot of people that struggle to achieve is they're so focused on the outcome. Not only does that move them away from it because they're not focused on the daily activities, but also the outcome can be unfulfilling. Because quite often it's like, oh, is that it? Like I've put all my happiness on that outcome. You said there about purpose, and I know a lot of people hear that phrase of, find your purpose, find your reason why. And that's said as like a real integral part of success. But I also know a lot of people struggle to know what their purpose is. What would you say to someone if they feel a little bit lost and they're like, look, I want to achieve more, I want to do more, I want to have more, but this purpose thing, I don't really know what my purpose is. Is there like an exercise or is there something you'd take them through?
Yeah, I wish it was that easy. So there's no tips, hints or gimmicks that make that better. I think self-awareness and personal introspection are key. Getting to know ourselves. And the only way we should get to know ourselves, our conversation comes full circle, is to try some different stuff. This bit about meeting new people, doing new things, and then find out what we enjoy, find out what fulfills us, what we feel passionate about, and then start to peel away the layers a little bit. So why do I enjoy that? And this thing about asking why 5 times, this Kaizen technique, continuous improvement. And that's why 5 times, you'll always find out the real reason. So once you start to ask, why do I enjoy it? Well, I enjoy it because it's about meeting new people. Well, why do I like meeting new people? Because I quite like learning. So you start to peel away the layers and gives us better insight into our root cause, our real reason for doing something. And I don't think that we create enough time and space for ourselves. I think we don't necessarily ask ourselves the right questions. We tend to sort of get on really and then think at the end of the day, oh, today was all right, or today was a bit crap. And I think
almost
that,
just surface level thinking.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And I just think that, don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm not one for any depth of thought or any great interrogation. but I think we can come down a layer or two and have a little think about, what it is that's truly exciting us and interesting us at the moment.
Think people are not asking the deeper questions and they are just, as you sort of say, they're kind of just going through life, getting through the day?
Yeah, well, I think a couple of things. I think it's quite difficult to ask ourselves questions. We don't like it, do we? Because we run the risk of exposing our faults, our weaknesses, our fears and insecurities.
So that's ego gets in the way.
Yeah, I think people like to stay away from that really.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that I just think, and let me give you an analogy. So I've sat in front of people before, sports people, and they've said, "Come on, make me better. Give me something that makes me better."
Oh, like you've got a potion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you then give them a few techniques or a few things to do. Go and try that, and then they come back a week later and say, "That was rubbish. That didn't work. Have you got anything else?" And it's a little bit, and you'll know this. It's a little bit like going to work out in the gym.
Yeah.
And then after half an hour in the gym, you go home, look in the mirror, and say, "That's rubbish."
There's no change.
Yeah. And so
that gym thing's a load of shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think what we need to do is to ask ourselves questions and create time and space for ourselves on a more regular basis.
Yes.
And I think that, unlike going to the gym, I tell you, go to the gym, you start to see results over time.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to get some tangible benefit from working on our mind. So it's easy to fall back into how we were and justify our own bad habits because that's easier than creating new ones.
And I think it is, as somebody who's, really interested in personal development and, improving, I guess, it is a little bit like fat loss or, growing muscle, in the sense that in the day-to-day you don't see it, but there'll be something will happen and you'll respond to it, and you might just think, do you know what? Shit, 6 months ago, I would not have reacted that well.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been as solutions focused, or maybe I'd have been more stressed. But it is that thing, isn't it, of it's got to become part of it's got to be intentional work every week without needing an outcome.
Yes.
And just being a habit, a behavioural pattern that you actively work on. When it comes to, obviously we're coming into the Christmas period, and I always look at people's behaviours as like, you can see it's seasonal, motivation tends to go lower around Christmas. We all know January is the new year, new me. Then it drops off again. And this is kind of the general cycle of the general public, right? The whole New Year's resolution mindset, we know that statistically not many of these goals get achieved. What do you think is the main reason? Because obviously we're coming into New Year. I want to give the listeners the help so that this year...
Are you asking for a friend?
Yeah, phone a friend. Yeah, give me the answers, please, Jamil. I need to know.
So I think two things. One, the problem with New Year's resolutions is that we focus them around starting things and stopping things. So starting things and stopping things as a human being is really hard. So from tomorrow, I'm going to be different. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to start doing that. It's really hard work. For us to say I'm going to do that a little bit more is a much easier commitment. Or I'm going to do this a little bit less is an easier commitment. So once we start to keep promises to ourselves, no matter how small, we start to understand that we've got the ability and the power of choice to change our lives. So let's start to make smaller promises. Let's keep those promises, recognize them and reward ourselves for them. And then we're more likely to continue along that path. And a bit like weight loss, or a bit like going to the gym, or whatever it might be, these things are a lifestyle. And it's not necessarily a one hit or a fad.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle. So if you're going to make a New Year's resolutions, you want to keep to it, then let's practice keeping our promises more so than try to bite off more than we can potentially chew. So I think small promises are good. The other thing that I'll give you is that it's good to buddy up. It's sometimes easy to be motivated when you're working with a friend on something, because we always talk to our friends in a way we don't talk to ourselves. So if I was to say, I'm going to give up eating chocolate cake, Matt, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop eating chocolate cake. If I then had chocolate cake the same day, I would speak to myself terribly. So never keep promises. What the hell are you doing? There you go. And I'm not keeping your word again. Useless. I'm totally useless. So if you said I'm not going to eat chocolate cake, and then you phone me up and said, Jamil, guess what? And I say, never mind, mate. It's fine. Start again tomorrow. So we don't talk to ourselves in the way we talk to our mates. We don't talk to ourselves in the way in which we talk to our children. So let's be kinder to ourselves and more supportive of ourselves. And if we can't do that or struggle to do it, it's good to have a friend who can do it for us.
So it's more, you said there, supportive, it's encouraging, isn't it? We just go straight to beating ourselves up.
All the time. We always think about what we haven't got, what we should have done, what we didn't do, and where I'm deficient. And two things happen. One, you either can't change that, so it just plays on your mind. You constantly work at it. Exactly. Or alternatively, it just makes you feel crap. So let's focus upon what I haven't got, what I don't do, and what I'm rubbish at.
That's going to be a good day,
demotivating, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I think we need to be really careful. I think when we come to improvement, we always think about fixing weaknesses. We never think about improvement or rarely think about improvement by understanding our strengths and making them even stronger. And so I actually think New Year's resolutions perhaps shouldn't be based upon what we want to stop doing. And maybe it's based upon, I'm going to identify a key strength of mine, key asset, something I do great, and this year I'm going to do it even more.
Is that something you give to people, is say, let's focus more on your strengths?
Yeah, always, yeah. So, do you know, I can't remember the point you made earlier, actually. You made a really good point about trying to achieve an outcome, trying to achieve a goal. So here's an example for you. So I work with golfers, as you know, and some of them are the best golfers on the planet. And the problem that is some of these have, or have had, without naming names, is that they've strived for perfection. So the outcome is perfection. And so they'll look at their swing, technical bit, and say, it's not perfect, that. It's not right. And I can improve it. So they look for perfection. Now, all I've ever seen at the highest level is two things happen when people look for perfection. They either spend all their life trying to find it and never do. So they live miserably. Or alternatively, find perfection and spend the rest of their life worrying when they're going to lose it. So by being outcome focused in that way, it's almost a route to demotivation. You might as well hack it round with a bad swing and win tournaments.
Yeah.
There's people who don't necessarily have the talent of others in all sports and in business, but they achieve more because it's not necessarily about some of those outcomes. They win ugly. They'll make it happen. I'll be up late and I'll send those emails when other people won't. It's a long-winded process, but I'll just commit to it because it will get the result. And I think that I will over IQ is counts for a lot when it comes to performance.
There's also I'm interested in, like, literally just listening to you talk, and there's about 20 things I wanted to go down, so I've got so much in my mind. But one thing I was thinking then is, you spoke about, it's that focus on, ultimately working hard and not striving for perfection. I always say perfection usually is a bit of an elusive goal. None of us will ever be perfect. And like you say, even if you get it in a certain sport, it's then how do I maintain it? And it becomes disempowering. When you're talking about, like, athletes at the highest possible level, world champions, do you think, like, absolute obsession and hard work is a non-negotiable? Because I know there's a lot of this hustle culture and this, I know Gary Vaynerchuk got kind of quite famous for speaking about, work harder, work longer, sleep less, and all this kind of stuff. And then there's a backlash to that. Yeah. The other side comes out that that's not healthy. To achieve at that high level, can you do it without a level of obsession and absolute, undeniable work ethic?
It's a tricky question, this, because if I think sport and I think business, they're almost two different answers.
Okay.
So in sport, I think people, to achieve top 10 in the world, are obsessive. And they become incredibly purposeful. So they direct their energy towards continual improvement. So if better never stops, you have to constantly be thinking about how do I improve? How do I get that edge? And the difference at that level in the Premiership or tennis or international cricket is nothing. So the difference between success and failure. So often the difference between winning and losing is what goes on behind the eyes. And it is that tiny bit of difference which takes the talent, which is almost equal at that level, into a space where someone wins. So it's marginal gains. So tiny things that make a big difference. So they're obsessive and they work incredibly hard. And they invest in their talent. This is why we all know people at 14 or 15 who are great footballers, great cricketers. You think, oh, they're going to go on and make it. They're just head and shoulders above everyone else in school, and they don't. And the reason why they don't is because they don't invest in themselves. They're not obsessive. They're not, they don't necessarily take their talent and learn how to use it to its optimum.
I think the talent often is the downfall because they can get lazy and
exactly right. I
complacent,
totally agree with you. That's absolutely right. And so, I'm totally talented. Why do I need to work harder? Because I'm better than everyone else. Yeah. And then before you know it, caught you up. And we see
which
it
way you get that underdog story.
Yeah, and we see it in business all the time. Lazy, fat businesses that, who are, I call it the curse of incumbency. We're sat here doing incredibly well. And there's a niche player just around the corner, stealing a bit of market share, but that's scraps, isn't it? Until they get funded, and then all of a sudden they start taking your business from you overnight. Yeah. And we've seen this all the time. We've seen not just companies wiped out, we've seen whole sectors wiped out because of this. So, but let's go back to business. I think obsessive or obsession is a bit of a bad word because it almost is. It sounds, it sounds unhealthy. I think in business it's good to direct our energy towards good outcomes and good impact and creating real value. But it's no longer about time management for me in this world that we're now working. It's more about energy management. And I think that you can perform incredibly well, get the most out of yourself and each other, not by working hard, but by actually taking more time out. It sounds counterintuitive. So, but to get more done, we need to take more time out. And it's that ability and opportunity to create time and space to think about what we're doing, much more so than to pedal fast, become obsessive, and try and get more done. And again, let's go back to the gym. And if you train all the time, you don't necessarily get the recovery, which allows you to then re-energize and train properly, or to build muscle. And it's actually that recovery bit, as you well know, which is almost the most important bit when training well. And yet in business, we don't respect recovery enough. We don't put time in for our own ice bath. We just put in extra hours in the diary or work weekends.
And then we're more tired, we're less focused, we make worse decisions.
Yeah.
It's that thing, I guess what you're saying is take more time to rest and recover. That allows you to get more excited and creative and innovative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than just work. And I agree. I think more than ever as well, I don't know your thoughts on this, but with like social media and the internet, like old school business mentors would say, you need it's 15 years to become an overnight success and all the rest of it. Well, we now know there's 7-year-old TikTokers that are multimillionaires, and through the power of social media, actually, like you're saying, having the time to be innovative and think more creative and utilize the opportunities around us. You don't have to work 7 days a week, like 24 hours a day for 10 years to make success in business. And I think that's a really important message to give people. And I think it's interesting that you answered it. It's very different with sport and athletes. Like, that is about an actual skill that you can always improve and always improve. Yes. Whereas business is very different.
Yeah, business is about more being open-minded, agile in our thinking, deploying resource to opportunity, being malleable, and that's what it's about. And I think that's a new thing, because before, like our dad's dad, would have said that, what you need to do is to get yourself an education, work hard. If you're well behaved, when the boss dies, you'll get promoted. And that's, that was the path. But our children's children or children's children, will know exactly what you have just described as having career flexibility, being portfolio careerists. I'll go and do this for a bit, and then I'll go and do that because it's an interesting country. I'll get a chance to go and work with my mate if I go and work in that organisation. Go and do that for 6 months. And I think that by having that flexibility, that versatility, that different stimulation and provocation and access to new technologies, channels, platforms, people, we start to connect differently. And so we start to see things differently. And these new perspectives will create new opportunities and new possibilities, that weren't around for. Do you know what? I shouldn't be talking like this because you're much younger than me. So when I say us, I mean me.
I'm 30.
So I think that for my generation, substantially older than you, we didn't have that opportunity or flexibility in the way in which you've just described. And that will only increase.
What do you think are the main things to help people stay on track and keep that consistency going?
So, all great achievements are the result of many small achievements. Let's focus on the small achievements.
What about motivation then within that? Because people can wake up one day motivated, an hour later it's gone.
Okay. So a few tips for you on this. So stay small. If you're demotivated one day, that's fine. Don't worry about it. The problem we've got, as we've already covered, is that we beat ourselves up for it. So we feel bad because we didn't do something. Then we feel even worse because we realise we feel bad, which is bad plus bad.
Double bad.
So let's be accepting. We are human beings, and so therefore we don't have the consistency of a computer. Some days we're going to be motivated, some days we're not. And a good question to ask ourselves on a daily basis is, given how I am feeling at the moment, what would be the next best thing to do? It's a great question. If you ask yourself that a few times during the day, given how I'm feeling at the moment, what would be the next best thing to do? And it might be, do you know what? I actually feel quite motivated. I'm going to go to the gym. I was going to sit down and plough through this report or this project. I'm going to go to the gym. Yeah, or I feel totally demotivated. I'm going to go to the gym. Or I'm going to just do these easy emails. That's what I'm going to do. When we start to work with how we feel, we're kinder to ourselves. And, when we force ourselves to feel and think differently, or we berate ourselves for it, it doesn't help us create the state of mind that we want to focus upon the next task, whatever that may be. So I think small things are important. I think go with how we feel. You have an off day, that's okay. In regard to motivation, the other thing I'll also say is make sure you really want it. I think it's one of the biggest things that people say that, I'd like to be the boss. Do you? Do you really want to lead a team? Do you really want to manage and direct?
They like the idea of how it looks.
Yeah, or I would really like to, I'd really like to go travelling for a year.
Yeah.
And do you? Because if you had the money now and the time now, would you do it? And I think that part of the problem with people not achieving what they're setting out to achieve is they don't necessarily want it in the first place. So therefore they don't have the commitment, because anything worth having takes a level of commitment to get it. So if you're prepared to do it, then you stand your best chance of completing upon the goal. Yeah. But the goal's got to be worthwhile, isn't it? It's got to be what you're after. It's got to be something which is valuable to you. And in a way, we need to lose ourselves to something which is bigger than us, if we are going to put up with the ups and downs that come with it.
Comes back to what you're saying about getting to the root of the why, doesn't it? Like, it's asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Also, you said a few things there that reminded me of something I read recently about expectation, and it really got me thinking, like, this is the key to everything. What you said about not beating yourself up, and rather than just feeling demotivated, then feeling bad about being demotivated and frustrated and angry and adding all these other negative emotions. The thing that I read was basically about, we only ever really feel negative when an expectation isn't met. And I thought that was really interesting. So it's like, if you expect to feel motivated every day, you're then going to feel pissed off if you're not. Or like you were saying about perfection, if you expect to be perfect, then you're going to feel, shit about not being perfect. When we all know that's pretty hard to ascertain on a daily basis, perfection. And I think that just really got me thinking, like, look at your expectations. And what you were saying there about not just putting everything on the goal, just go, what's my expectations today? Are they realistic? Are they achievable? And I think that then is going to create a more positive relationship with the process, like you were saying. I think potentially people are setting unrealistic expectations. And like you said, they're setting goals that they don't really want, but maybe they think they want it because their family suggested that's the career path.
Exactly
or
right.
Instagram suggests you need a six-pack. Or whatever it is. And I think it is. I think the kind of the crux to a lot of what you're saying is ask deeper questions. And you've got to work on your self-awareness. And what do you really want? Because if you're more demotivated than you're motivated, maybe that ain't the career for you, or that's not the relationship for you. Or I think people fear change. And I think they fear judgment. What's been your experience with that? Because I think if more people were comfortable being their authentic self, they would make, they'd leave that job tomorrow, or they'd leave that partner. Because what I always find is we're like, as human beings, when backed into a corner, we are resilient. Like, if our partner leaves us, or we're diagnosed with an illness, or we're made redundant, somehow we find the strength to survive and move forward. Yeah. But we don't act like that until we have to a lot of the time.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on how to get somebody to think a little bit more like that if they want more success? I guess what I'm asking is, they've got to kind of make the stakes higher in their own head in a way, right?
Yeah, I think a bit about realism is really important. So I think people either will be over optimistic and, as you say, and be disappointed.
Yeah.
or be negative, because you could say in regard to expectation, well, I'll just expect every day to be crap, and anything else is a bonus.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
not helpful either.
No, you're
so
right,
I think
yeah.
I think being realistic is probably where it's at. Positive thinking is nice. That's lovely. I think intelligence is nicer. Let's be realistic about what we can achieve and what we're looking to achieve. Let's keep promises to ourselves. Let's keep ticking the boxes, saying that I said I was going to do it and I've done it. And keeping promises to ourselves is very important. We start to understand the power of choice then, that I'm choosing to do something and I'm making it happen. So when do people feel anxious? When do they feel out of control? It's when they feel as though their optionality is low. And so my choices are low here, so therefore I feel stressed. So the more choice we've got, the more empowered we feel. So we need to prove to ourselves that we have choice by choosing to do things and doing them, keeping promises. So, I think, all in all, the world is improbable, the world is complicated, the world is uncertain, if things work and they don't work. It's always been like that. And you're right, as human beings, we're incredibly resilient. Here we are. We deal with change and complexity incredibly well. So I think keeping a perspective on things is really important. So perspective is key. To sit there and not see things for better than they are or worse than they are. Let's see things for as they are. And the best decision next always comes from seeing things evidentially correct.
Yeah.
So the more that we can move away from prejudice and bias and some of the emotion that goes into the way in which we view the world, the more that we can start to make decisions based upon good information.
Because I think I'm so glad you said that. I think it's a key problem with society in general is people like extremes, people like binary boxes, people like labels, and it's either good, bad, or black or white, motivated, demotivated, extreme diet or extremely off my diet and eating all the chocolate.
Yeah.
And it's like what you're ultimately saying is the real life is complex and it's not as black or white, and it's the truth comes somewhere in the middle with everything, You said there about detaching from emotion and thinking about more logic and rational. How do you help someone if they are in an emotional state? Because we all know best decisions are not made in any heightened emotional state.
Yeah.
How do you help somebody quickly get into more rational and logical thinking when they are in heightened emotional states?
Yeah. So again, let's come back to perspective. I think that people tend to not make decisions for your reasons, they make them for their own. So for people to decide to feel better, or for people to decide to contextualize something in a new way, we need to try and get them to explore some of the possibilities. So rather than telling people that calm down, it's no big deal, because it is to them.
That's quite triggering.
They're
going to justify it.
Yeah, it is. But to say to someone, why is this a big deal? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And what are you experiencing at the moment?
More interest.
And to try and get people to explore it. Now, if you go head to head with someone, they'll become more entrenched in their view. So if someone said that, I feel this or I think that, and you say, why on earth would you? They'll feel it even more or think it even more, become more entrenched.
Yeah.
If you say, I totally get that and understand that. But now you're more likely to have a conversation which can unravel the argument.
Yeah.
So the key to changing people's mind, the key to changing the way in which people feel, is to find common ground and work from there. So I understand why you feel frustrated. I understand why you're angry at this point. I totally get it, actually. And then start to explore that further, because then people start to feel engaged with, they feel listened to, they feel validated, and understood. And then we get a chance to explore it from a perspective, which hopefully will start to decrease those levels of stress or anxiety, because we start to explore, and we're on their side, explore what we've just agreed upon, that it's okay to feel angry about this, I get it. But then once you start to talk about it, you have a chance to potentially allow them the choice of reducing the anger.
I guess what I'm hearing as well is a lot of what stops us being open-minded and moving forward. I guess it comes back to that thing I said earlier. It's your ego. If you feel attacked, and it's kind of your identity. If this is your world and you believe it to be factual, and you feel that's being questioned or attacked, you defend it more, right?
Yeah.
It's like no. So it's for us as the person going through it rather than the person trying to help them. I guess is there a way we can be more aware of when our ego is getting in the way, and when our current belief system and identity isn't serving a positive outcome? Like, what would you say, to actually help us identify it ourselves, I guess?
It's a good point that people say about the ego being fragile. It's actually not. The ego actually inflates when it's attacked. So it's bigger. So you're absolutely right. I think that neutrality is a good place to be. To find a common ground, to agree that someone's feeling like this, but then to be impartial ourselves. So we can understand or think how someone is feeling. We don't need to feel how they feel.
Yeah.
So in regard to empathy, and I think this is the right answer for you. And in regard to empathy, and there's different types of empathy, but you can either feel how someone feels, or you can think how they feel. Now, what's most useful in resolving a situation with someone is to think how they feel.
Yeah. If you feel how they feel, you might make just as bad.
Exactly right. So and there's something in psychology called transference, and we've all got people in our lives who transfer. And what that means is that someone will sit there and say, "Oh, life's crap. It's all shit, and a dreadful day, and everything's awful, and ran over the cat on the way to work this morning, and spilt my coffee in my lap." And we sit there, and they feel better because they've unloaded that. And then we walk off thinking, "Fuck me, isn't it a crap day today?"
We all know that. The Brendas of the world.
So, so we need to be careful, and I think that attitudes are contagious. I do think that moods are relevant to the group, and it's a great way to maintain motivation is to hang out with some people who are purposeful and motivating, energetic. How attractive is it when you meet someone who is positive and energetic and someone's walking fast, they're going somewhere, they're doing something.
You want to be around that.
It's an attractive quality, isn't it? Where someone's got a vibrancy, and and I think that let's try and hang out with some people who allow us to feel how we wish to feel. So I always say that being a good colleague at work, or being a good boss, or whatever it might be, being a good sports person, is not about seeking to impress. It's about seeking to express. Be ourselves in the context of the workplace. Or be ourselves in the context of our friends. So the more that we can be ourselves and bring our best self into whichever dynamic we are, the more chance that we've got of contributing positively to other people. But we also got more chance of finding out more about ourselves. Because in a way, we only express ourselves through other people. So we only really get to know ourselves through the context of others. And the more authentic we can be in those situations, the more chance we've got of self-discovery.
So obviously throughout your career, you've had some incredible results, worked with some incredible people. I'm interested when you reflect on it, have you got like a standout success story? And it doesn't need to be necessarily an external achievement, but in terms of when you saw a big breakthrough in somebody through the work you was doing.
For me, and it's an interesting one, this, because when you help someone get from, I don't know, number 5 in the world to number 1 in the world, it's not really a big deal because they're really talented. So they make a change, which allows them to do a tiny bit more, which gets a bit more, and they get to number 1 in the world, and that's great. And
on that, sorry to go on a tangent, but I've heard you say before as well, like you've worked with golfers and things like that, and you're not necessarily interested in golf.
No interest whatsoever. No.
How does that work when you're trying to help someone go from number 5 to number 1 in the world?
Because I don't talk about golf. So, I'm not there giving them putting drills or telling them what to do with their 6-iron. That's not me. And, I'll sit down in a hotel room and I'll talk about what golf means to their life. So
it goes beyond...
Yeah, we'll talk about relaxation techniques, about motivation, about goal setting, about how to focus better. So we're talking about all the stuff which is away from golf. And actually, one of the things which has allowed me to be so successful in golf is that I don't like it and have no interest in it. So if I was sat opposite someone who was in the top 10 in the world and they wanted to talk about golf, I'd go, no, I don't want to know. And,
in other words, they've got that conversation down. They they're thinking about that all
They
the
know
time
about it anyway.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, and you think about it that, you know, these guys are so technically good
Yep.
that it's not the technique which is the issue.
Nah.
And they can all win tournaments. It's something else that's just interfering or stopping it.
And that's what will give them the edge.
That's it. There you go, and that's where the edge comes from.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and when people perform great, let's say it's on a golf course, or let's say it's presenting,
Yeah.
or sales. They're doing really well. They're flying. It's a great week. This. It's not a purple patch or good form or good luck. It's how they can perform all the time.
Yeah.
It's just the majority of the time we are being interfered with. Something's getting in the way. And that thing is usually how we're thinking.
Yeah. And that's where you come in and you get them to look at the thoughts.
Try and remove interference. Yeah. So, you know, it'd be, you know, that would be where I would spend my time, is trying to reduce that interference.
So is there a particular breakthrough, a success story that really was a big achievement for you?
Yeah. I mean, for me, my biggest success stories, you know, aren't really getting someone from sort of 5 to 1. It's usually from someone who's 300th in the world and losing their career.
Yeah.
And they are literally about to never play again because they're playing so badly. And then they go from 300th in the world to 100th in the world, and they have another 5 or 6 years, another few £1 million, and retire comfortably.
Because that journey,
And then,
presumably, is a much bigger journey.
It's a much bigger journey, and also it's much more meaningful. If you're 5 in the world and you're earning, you know, 5-10 million quid a year,
You're doing great.
and then I mean, you know, but if you're 300th in the world and you're going to have to take the kids out of that school, or potentially sell the house, or, you know, your career is going to end, you know, quickly if you don't turn it round, and then you give someone enough money to pay off their mortgage, to put in a retirement fund, to see the kids through college, that's where I get most pleasure.
Yeah, that's the real
From
reward.
300th to 100th is great. Or taking a team in the Premiership at the bottom of the table, and because what people don't realise is that when Premiership football teams get relegated, the players will go on and find another club. That's what happens.
Yeah.
It's the staff, you know, it's the physios, and, you know, who have moved home from somewhere in the south or somewhere in the north, taking the kids with them. They've had 1 year and now they've been relegated, and now these people are trying to find a job somewhere, and possibly take a substantial pay cut in a lower league just to get employment in this area that they didn't really want to move to anyway. They just did it because it's a Premiership club. So when you get a Premiership club at the bottom of the table who manages to survive and finishes above relegation, again, it's much more meaningful than taking someone from Manchester United, you know, or Man City, who's already doing really well, and they're on 60 grand a week, and they start playing better again.
We hear a lot about these people that appear to have it all, you know, and especially like we were speaking about earlier, the age of the Instagram influencer. Everyone's living their best lives, looking amazing, and in particular celebrities and, you know, pop stars seem to have it all, and then you realise they've got a drug addiction, or they've committed suicide, or athletes that were at the top of the game, they have an injury and they've got no purpose. I'm wondering, obviously it comes to the whole thing that this show's about, really, which is what really is success and what does it mean. But I'm wondering, have you got any examples where you've worked with someone that is maybe in the top 5 or top 100, and, you know, externally they're doing incredible, but, you know, internally they've got a lot of problems, or they feel unfulfilled or lost, or like, what's next?
Yeah, lots of them, lots. Yeah.
How do you work with somebody like that?
You're describing most people.
Really?
Oh yeah, most people. I honestly, if I played you answer phone messages from some people who are in the top 10 in the world, you'll be surprised. You'll be
What's
amazed.
the main themes? What are they saying?
Well, I mean, it is exactly what you've described. You know, which is, you know, I've had people who were in the top 10 in the world in golf who would phone me up and leave a message on my phone saying, "I can't play this game. I'm shit. I'm useless. I've never been any good." Top 10 in the world. And you know, and I think what people don't realise is that if you are number one golfer, if you're CEO of a big company, and you know, whatever you do, we're all human beings, and our fears and insecurities and hopes and desires and wants are all the same, and they are, and and we all go through periods of being confident in who we are.
Yeah.
I mean, totally unconfident in who we are. And we
Yep.
all go through periods of where we think we're really good at what we do and we're crap at what we do.
At
And we
every level, wherever you're at.
Wherever you are,
Yeah.
I guarantee you that's the case. So there's no special way of working with this little group of people who sometimes think like that. I would say the majority of people feel like that. And we talk about something called paradise complex, which is where I think Robbie Williams and people like Michael Barrymore have alluded to it without naming it, you know, where feel like imposters and frauds, you know, the top of their career, you know, and yet involve themselves in behavior which self-sabotages because they're not sure that they deserve it, you know, and we all suffer from it. You know, the amount of times I've sat in front of, you know, people and thought, you know, I'm not good enough to work with this person, or, you know, it happens. It does happen. And again, two things. One, let's be accepting. Let's understand that this is who we are, and it's not debilitating. It's who we are. That happens from time to time.
It's a human trait.
It is, yeah. And you know, and the other thing is that you know, let's try and constantly find the evidence that supports the fact that, you know, we know what we're doing. And I think that we very easily lose sight of all the stuff that we do in a day, which is really good.
Yeah.
A perfect example for you, you know, you got a golfer who plays 68 great shots, unbelievable shots in a day. They'll play 2 bad ones. And do you know what I want to talk about at night? They'll sit on the edge of the bed with their head in their hands, and they want to replay those 2 shots today. And we do it all the time. And you know, you'll do 68 great things today, and do 2 crap ones. And we'll sit there in the evening thinking, God, why did I do that? That was poor. You know, rather than celebrate what's already good about us, you know, and I think that, you know, it's a useful way to be, is to have a little think about, you know, what 3 things went really well this week? You know, what 3 things did I do great today? You know, and to sit back and actually enjoy, you know, the success that we have on a regular basis. Some of it's really big, some of it we don't even notice.
Incredible. And I think that's so important for people to hear, that we all feel the same feelings. It doesn't matter what you're achieving. We all, and I guess it, if anything, what you're saying is it gets amplified. Like the more success you have, the more you're going to feel self-doubt, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, do I really deserve this? So actually, I guess it's kind of what you said there, celebrating the successes and the wins, focusing more on the positives than just going tunnel vision on the negatives. And just kind of being more accepting with who you are.
Yeah.
And I think if we can all do that, not only will the big wins probably happen more regular, because we're not going to self-sabotage as much, but we're just going to enjoy life a lot more.
Absolutely. I worked with a footballer from Manchester United not so long ago, and wasn't performing well at all. And then what he did was not go on social media. Handed the social media to someone else and didn't look at it, and started playing great. And the reason why was because he was playing crap, and all the fans were saying, "You're playing crap."
So just
no.
amplifying.
So there he was thinking I'm playing rubbish,
Yeah.
and then would spend all evening scrolling through
Thousands of other people saying it as well.
Get him out, he's crap.
Wow.
You know, and all he did was move away from that and try and take better control over his thinking. Because his talent is the same, so the talent doesn't change. And it's the way in which we apply the talent, which is different.
It's his thoughts that changed based on what he was consuming, right?
Yeah.
Jamil, I feel like I could talk all day. I feel like we've just scratched the surface. But thank you so much. I know that so many people will get value out of hearing this from you. Just before we finish, if people want to find out more about your work, where's the best places they can see you online? How can they check you out?
JamilQureshi.com. I've got a website there. I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Twitter. And that's the only 2 places you'll find me, on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Not on TikTok yet? We're not doing any dance routines?
No TikTok, no Snapchat, no Facebook, none of that sort of stuff, no.
Cool. Brilliant. Before we finish, the final question that I always ask my guests is, Jamil, what is your definition of success?
My definition of success is, I've got 2 definitions of success. Can I give you 2? Is that being greedy?
Go on, we'll let it. We've never had this before.
Have you not
But we'll allow it.
Okay, I'll give you 2. Definition of success is making a connection between 2 things previously unconnected. That's my definition of success. Make the connection between 2 things previously unconnected. So a bit of ambiguity there for you.
And that is when I feel like I need to think about There's layers to it.
Okay, and then the other one, which is more straightforward, is that it's the continued accomplishment of goals which are personal to the individual. So continued accomplishment, because better never stops. It's not an end destination, but it's a series of goals. And personal to the individual. One of the problems that we have with success is that we do it as a comparative to others. And so we compare ourselves to the next door neighbours. Compare ourselves to someone we went to school with, someone else in the sales team. But they're different people. So it's only under fulfillment of our own potential which allows us to be successful.
Jamil, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming along today, Matthew. It's good to see you.
Okay, there you go, everybody. I really hope you found this episode of Rich in Success a valuable listen. My mission and my vision with this show is to be able to help people live a happier, healthier, more successful, and a more truly fulfilling life. But I cannot do this alone. So as always, I'd really, really appreciate it if you can help me to help other people help themselves by just sharing this episode. If you could maybe stick it on your Instagram story or share it on your social media, it would be massively appreciated. As always, I appreciate you being here, and I hope to see you next time as the journey of self-discovery and personal development continues. I'll see you then.